Law Call, sponsored by the law firm of Reynolds, Horne, and Survant. And now, in the public interest, your rights, your calls live. Law Call.
Mr. Carl Reynolds. Hey, Carl.
Hey, Annette.
It's been a while.
I am William Carl Reynolds.
William Carl Reynolds. So we got two Williams.
And we have as our guest tonight William Carl Head.
Okay.
Who is also known as Bubba Head. Okay. He's a good friend of mine. He's been in the practice of law for a number of years. He is the go-to guy in Georgia for DUI and the founder of, I believe it's the Dodd Group, isn't it?
Georgia Defensive Drunk Drivers.
Defensive Drunk Drivers. So Bubba is here to answer a lot of questions about the offense of DUI and how it should be handled.
Welcome back, Bubba.
Welcome
to be back.
The show, Bubba.
It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
And let me say at the outset that we will take your calls. If you're trying to get through, usually the lines are flooded on this show, so just be patient with us. But for openers, I've got a couple of questions for Bubba that I would like for him to answer for all of us. Bubba, let's just say that you've had 2 or 3 drinks, or 3 or 4 drinks at a bar or at home, and you get on the road, and you're driving down the road, and you cross the fog line a little bit, or you're maybe weaving a little bit in your own lane, and you're pulled over. What should you do when the officer says to you, have you had a drink or have you been drinking? What should a person do?
Well, that's a very good question. The truth of the matter is that the officer is going to ask you a question more targeted, like, when was your last drink? And they're going to try to go ahead and assume that they know the answer to that question, Carl. So the best thing to do is, if they pulled you over, they're going to tell you why they pulled you over. And if they're going to do that, they don't need to talk to you other than find out if you have a driver's license, if you have your insurance card, and from that point forward, they write a ticket and you go. If they start asking other questions, you could say, I'd like to talk to my attorney if you're going to ask questions beyond what you stopped me for. And at that point, you should just clam up. There's no reason to talk. You have a right to remain silent on any other issues.
Is there a requirement that they give you your Miranda warnings before they ask you questions about drinking?
No, in fact, the appellate courts have said, no, you do not have to give any Miranda warnings until you've put the person in custody. So they're going to investigate the case. They're going to ask you as many questions as you'll answer. They're going to ask you then to get out and do field sobriety evaluations. But remember this one simple rule. Unless you have handcuffs on, nothing you do before that can affect your ability to drive. You will not lose your driver's license for refusing to do everything before handcuffs are on. And I know you're saying, well, I don't want handcuffs on, but if they put handcuffs on you without good cause, the judge can throw that case out for lack of evidence.
Oh, okay.
So, very important.
So, what are you saying, though, should be done? I mean, should the person at that point, I guess they would ask, are you willing to take an intoxilizer test or a blood test? What is the person's rights?
Well, the official test is called the Intoxilizer 5000. That test is given at the station or possibly in a mobile Batmobile. The real truth of the matter is you don't want to be taking any test at the roadside, no matter what they are. Handheld detector, follow the pin, walk the line, none of those are required. You don't have to do any of those to keep your driver's license. But once the cuffs go on, if you don't take the test they ask you about, you can be suspended for a full year. So my suggestion is that you go ahead and take the test that they offer you and then ask for your own independent blood test. You can ask for blood. You can ask for a breath test after that. You can ask for a urine test after that. You can ask for as many tests as you want. So I tell people, go ahead and take the state test, not any of the roadside tests, and then when you get your blood test, you'll have an independent analysis that may be far more reliable than the breath test. So you have a right to as many tests as you want. You have to pay for those, but as long as you have the ability to do that, and there's not a hospital in this state that doesn't have an ATM machine right in the lobby, so you can get money out of an ATM if you have the money in the bank.
Okay, so let's be clear. They stop you. They want you to take the Intoxilizer 5000.
It's not at the roadway. That's the handheld device is called an Alka-Sensor.
Okay.
They're wanting you to take that.
That just says positive or negative.
Positive or negative. Correct. That's not an evidential test.
All right. So then
that's optional.
If you're positive, then they can ask you to take the Intoxilizer 5000.
Well, if you follow my advice, you don't take anything at the roadway. including the Alka-Sensor. It's all voluntary until they put cuffs on you.
And once they put the cuffs on you,
then you're going to be taken to the police station for the intoxilizer test. The intoxilizer test is generally given at the police station, not at the roadway.
Okay.
all right, how reliable or valid or accurate is the Intoxilizer 5000?
Well, let's put it this way. It's the oldest piece of breath technology still in existence. The same computer runs this device as ran the Pong game. The Pong game was a little white dot that you bounced back and forth in the 70s. That is the same high-tech computer running this device, and it has the same pump as in an aquarium that cost about $1.50. So these machines are antiquated. The company that makes it replaced it with a newer machine over 12 years ago. But Georgia has not replaced it. These devices don't keep any computer information that you can get your hands on. Even though they have a full computer database, there's no software being used, there's no downloads available, there's no accountability for this machine. And as opposed to almost every other state in the country, they do not run a simulator at the same time to check it against a known alcohol solution. All other states use that as the method of verifying their test results. Not in Georgia. We don't keep any data, and we don't run the simulator. So you're pretty much out of luck. If you only blow into that and don't get an independent test, you have no proof that something was wrong at the time of your test.
All right, so now you've been stopped. They've got the cuffs on you, and they're saying, we're going to take you in and charge you with DUI.
Correct.
You have to take the Intoxilizer test there, but you have a right then to ask for an independent blood test
or
at a hospital?
You can take, and you get to name the hospital as long as it's within a reasonable distance. Okay. On the Intoxilizer, you may refuse it, but you could lose the entire ability to drive, no work permit, if you refuse that test that they ask you to take after cuffing. So after you're cuffed, take their test, and then say, now I'd like my own independent test. And in Georgia, they have to accommodate that, including letting you call people to bring you money or taking you by an ATM to get the money. And again, on a blood test, you don't get a result that night. It'll be coming in a month or two later. So you can say, now take me over to the nearest police station that's not associated with your office, and I want to take a breath test at a different police station. You can do that.
So a third test?
You can get as many as you want. You can get a urine test, too, if you want.
All right, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't done this in many, many, many years, but I can remember 30 years ago, we tried a case involving a prominent politician. He refused all breath test, blood test, everything. Back then, it wasn't a matter of what your blood alcohol content was, but
Correct.
whether or not you were under the influence.
Whether you were impaired.
We won the case before a jury, but he still lost his license for a year. Is that still the case?
No, we got the law changed in ~94. Billy Spruill, another attorney, and I went to the legislature, and we pointed out to them in a case that I had where the officer we proved had perjured himself. The person had lost his license. In the legislature, they heard us, and they changed the law, and it said if you win your case, you win the criminal case, all suspensions are lifted. So we got that law through in '94. It's been that way ever since, and that's why I say if you go to a lawyer that wins, you got a better chance of keeping on driving.
Absolutely. Now, I understand you just come back from the Supreme Court with a case. Would you like to tell us about that?
We had two cases in which we challenged the state's ability to keep the source code, the computer source code of the breath machine, secret. Two judges had ruled that we couldn't get it.
Talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, okay?
Well,
so I can understand
again,
what you're saying.
Going back to the fact that the breath machine has no computer accountability and it's not kept with a simulator, all you get is the conviction card that they print out. They don't print out any other data. We wanted to see if the machine really will work as it's supposed to, and we hired computer experts who said we need to get to the source code, the actual brains of how this machine works, so we can see if it will run correctly. This company has not turned over that to anybody, so we asked for a subpoena to get it. Two judges said no, and the Supreme Court reversed them, saying we had a right to get that breath test information because it's part of the Sixth Amendment. We have a right to confront that test evidence. And that case is monumental. That's our Georgia Supreme Court reversing now many cases, because I just had two more that were reversed that were on the way up the appeal chain. And that means we're going to either get the breath test or we're going to be asking courts to exclude your breath results all over the state of Georgia.
Okay.
All right. Very important case.
Okay. If you'd like to reach William Bubba Head, here's how. He's with Head Thomas Webb in Willis. He is in Atlanta, and you can reach him at 1-877-384-4367. And Mr. Carl Reynolds is right here in Macon. You can reach him at Reynolds, Horne, and Survant. That number is 478-405-0300, or toll free 1-800-537-3238, or visit Carl's website at reynoldsinjurylaw.com.